Welcome back to In Depth with Academia. I'm your host, Richard Price, CEO of academia.edu, and today, wow, we've got a fascinating topic that really, it jumps right out, especially if you love music, design, or, well, just that kind of cultural crossroads where art and society meet each other head on. So here's what we're diving into, a paper by Hanna Ścisłowska titled O okładkach płytowych Trójmiejskiej Sceny Alternatywnej. That's Polish, by the way, and translates to something like on the album covers of the Tricity alternative scene. So, what's the deal here, and why should you care about album covers from late communist Poland? Well, let's see. Let's begin with the core question from Ścisłowska. How did these seemingly small objects, album covers, reflect or even shape the wildly vibrant, sometimes chaotic, sometimes deeply melancholic world of Trójmiejskie, so the Gdańsk-Sopot-Gdynia region in northern Poland, alternative music scene of the 1980s? Why did these covers matter? Why look back at them now? Are they just nice pieces of nostalgia, or are they windows into bigger cultural forces, maybe even little acts of rebellion jammed in cardboard sleeves? Hold on, because this is not an easy question. Ścisłowska doesn't say these covers were world-changing or anything absolute. Remember, I'm presenting this work neutrally. It's not a declaration of truth, but a perspective to ponder. But there's a real case here for album covers as a kind of battleground for artistic expression, especially in a society where commercial pressures and state censorship danced a weird tango, pulling creativity in different directions. The very idea that a record cover, something you might just toss aside, could hold so much cultural significance, that's a pretty wild notion, right? So what does Ścisłowska actually do in this paper? She picks several landmark album covers released by Trójmiejskie bands before 1990, before the wall came down, before everything commercialized, and she examines them both visually and culturally. There are concrete references, like the cover for Bombakacie Dziużymi, designed by Jarosław Wróbel in 1986, which drew on 1950s American comic book motifs. Think Roy Lichtenstein, bright minimal shapes and this sort of deliberate amateur vibe, or the compilation album Gdynia with Boris Chernychowski's image of a trolleybus, a trolleybus painted in surreal colours that made it both instantly recognizable and absolutely unique. Ścisłowska connects the dots. Album covers weren't just marketing in Poland, they often had nothing to sell since records virtually sold out anyway. Instead, designers could play with subverting or echoing visual art movements, expressionism, minimalism, even pop art and surrealism, but on their own terms. These covers sometimes became full-blown artistic statements. She highlights not just the final images, but the methods: hand painting, collage, stencils, no computers, and a real sense of making do with what was available. There's creativity in limitation, right? Maybe that's a message we can all relate to, especially now. Let's digress for a sec, because hearing about how artists reuse things, old paint, stencils, whatever, got me remembering this time I tried to build a birdhouse with just scraps from my shed, and the results were, let's say, creatively rustic. Sort of like some of these album covers. Anyway, point is, resourcefulness isn't just a necessity, sometimes it's a style. Back on track, Ścisłowska also compares covers. Take She's Mieście, którego wszyscy szukamy. It's this stark, minimalist design featuring a photograph of an old woman in sepia tones, totally different from the wild comic book covers elsewhere. Sometimes less is more, and those stripped-down choices can be the most haunting, the most open to interpretation. And there's the album Big Noise by Apteka, whose cover was literally hand-painted by the drummer Makieć Wana, filled with pictograms, tiny images and invented typography, with ideas ranging from friendship to, well, let's just say the mysteries of everyday life and leave it at that. Every detail mattered. Colour, image, technique, even the shape of the letters. She shows how these covers, despite, or thanks to, their limitations, captured the wild, messy spirit of the Trójmiejskie scene. Commercial? Rarely. Personal? Always. Expressive? Absolutely. Remember, though, this isn't about making grand claims. Ścisłowska never says these covers embody timeless truth or represent all of Polish culture. Nope. They're glimpses, partial, subjective, one way of seeing a moment in history through visuals. and I'm just presenting her view, not selling you on any truth. So why care? Because maybe next time you hold an album cover or see a digital thumbnail, you'll remember these are more than packaging. They're pieces of culture made by people responding to their world with all their limitations and dreams. And doesn't that make everything just a little more interesting? That's it from me today on In Depth with Academia. Remember, academic research is about sparking ideas, not delivering certainties. I hope Ścisłowska's journey into the Trójmiejskiej album covers has given you a new angle. Maybe a bit of inspiration for your own creative projects, or just something to mull over the next time you put on a record. Thanks for listening. See you next time.